gentlemen, welcome to Parents on Pictures podcast. My name's Damien.
And I'm Andy.
And each and every week we take a film from a popular streaming platform, Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, that kind of thing. And we come in here after we've seen it and we talk about it and then basically say whether we'd like to recommend it or not to you, general public. So Andy, this is your pick this week. I picked
my pick.
Last episode. So tell us a little bit about your pick.
So this week we are going to be looking at 2019's Aladdin, Disney's Aladdin. Really keen to do this. I've been wanting to see it for a while. With the launch of Disney Plus, I felt like it was a good opportunity to see the film and to talk about it. I wasn't disappointed by it either. And so many of the reviews when it came out and everybody was talking about how people were going to be disappointed, I really wasn't. So I'm looking forward to talking about this.
Awesome. I'll give you a quick, in case you don't know the story, I'm just going to read this one from IMDb. As a kind-hearted street urchin and a power-hungry grand vizier vie for a magic lamp that has the power to make their deepest wishes come true. Obviously, this, I think, was nicely timed. The original was released 20 odd years ago.
I'm going to say, I'm guessing, but 1992. I remember seeing the original in the cinema as a kid.
Did you?
Yeah. So my uncle Jeremy took me to the cinema one Christmas, and I remember it for a couple of reasons. First one was when we went to the cinema, I was allowed pick and mix, which I wasn't allowed with my parents. But it was my uncle Jeremy took me and he said, you can have whatever pick and mix you want. And so nice. I had great pick and mix. And then on the way home, we had McDonald's and I had a strawberry milkshake, which I then threw up in my granddad's bathroom that night. I reckon I was like 8.
So, according to this, it was released in 1992. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
What's on? Look at that.
Right.
And
yeah,
for me, I watched it on video when it first came out. So my parents, they used to buy, we didn't go to the cinema a lot, but they used to buy loads of Disney videos. I think by the time DVD had come out and, video was done and dusted, we had somewhere in the region of like 300 Disney videos. And a lot of that was because they were childminders. And so we used to get all the kids stuff to keep them occupied. But we used to have a little tradition each weekend. We'd either rent or buy a video and watch it. And a lot of the time it was Disney. And I remember watching this for the first time. It must have been a couple of years after it was released, because back then you had to wait 2 years for something to be released.
Time.
Absolutely crazy. So I mean, you've already told us that you enjoyed it. Before I get on to what I thought of it, did you want to give a brief summary of what you enjoyed? Because I've got my own opinions on this one.
Absolutely. No, leading up to it, I'd read a lot of negative reviews about Will Smith as the Genie and about the production itself. And so I was expecting it to be not very good. I was really pleasantly surprised. I felt like they kept the right amount of the original and they had enough new material that it was exciting to watch. And I did really enjoy it. I found it really engaging. There's a couple of new songs in there as well, which was quite, I thought that was quite nice. I thought Will Smith was great. I don't really get the criticism of it. I don't think he was trying to be Robin Williams. I don't any of that. I thought he was fabulous. I think some of the motion graphics were, not amazing, but it's I don't know. I just loved it. I thought it was really good.
It's a fun kids film at the end of the day. Sure. I think that's what people have got to focus on, is that there are a lot of people our age and older who remember seeing this the first time around. And I think the biggest thing they had to balance was the fact that those people who were children the first time around, they're parents now. So it's like, who do you aim this film at? Is it aimed at the people who are going to feel a great deal of nostalgia? And if that's the case, you're just remaking it, but live action? Or are you trying to aim at an audience who've probably never seen the original Aladdin cartoon before by Disney? And if that's the case, then you want to modernize it and bring it up to date for that newer audience. Because I would imagine, back in 1992, we were a lot easier to please because we didn't have things like good CGI, for
Right.
instance, or any of those kind of like modern tricks that you've got these days. And yeah, I'd also read a lot of negative reviews, sort of surrounding it, and that negative buzz started
Mm.
around about. Well, first off, it was when Guy Ritchie was announced. It's like, why are you getting Guy Ritchie to do a
Yeah.
family film?
That was really interesting. I thought we
Mm.
can talk about that in a moment, but I think that for me was quite surprising.
I was, yeah, really surprised by that. I mean, he's done a bit more than just your straight up adult films. I mean, I think he had a whale of a time when it came to Sherlock, and I think that he really
Even
showed his ability to make a more friendly type film with those two
even
films.
Sherlock had that element of Guy Ritchie about it,
Yeah,
didn't it?
oh yeah, big
Kind of
time.
the underground nastiness and this, that, and the other, which I don't think you can see in Aladdin at all.
No, I don't get that, and like what you're saying is, I completely agree in the sense that you don't get that underground kind of like dirty aesthetic to the film by any means. So it kind of started then, but then when the trailer came out, and this is what I don't like about people jumping on the bandwagon, because when the trailer came out, I think the biggest criticism was the fact that the genie, the CGI genie, looked dreadful. But what I think people forget quite often is that the trailer is usually released before all of that post work is done.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, this time people really honed in on that, which is understandable. I mean, the genie is like the biggest character in the film. Even though it's called Aladdin, people don't watch Aladdin. I mean, Aladdin, in my opinion, we'll go into this, was quite a dull, boring character. And you know, it's the genie that really brought the whole thing to life, back in the '92 version and this one as well. So I can see why people kind of honed in on that. And then the other piece for me was the fact that the genie is almost an iconic character these days, and that's down to the legendary Robin Williams.
for
It's
sure.
like nobody wants to step into his shoes. So it was really important for Will Smith to make it his own character. But when you had a larger than life person like Robin Williams portraying it, and now you've got another larger than life person like Will Smith portraying it, back in the early days, it did stink a little bit of, oh, they're just going to try and remake it, as opposed to make it his own. So, yeah, I get where the negative buzz was coming from, but it was undue, I thought.
Good. Good. I'm glad. I didn't. I wasn't sure if you'd enjoy it or not.
Well, I haven't so
Yeah.
enjoyed it, not yet.
Okay.
All right, I tell you what, I'll go straight into it. For me, I didn't like the first half at all. The I was a little bored with the film up until Genie arrived. For me, it had quite, I thought, serious pacing issues. So one of the things that I thought it failed to do initially was set up the characters. The whole beginning was rushed. It was done with Will Smith doing his whole voiceover. And I mean, this film isn't long, and neither was the original, but I felt that the original was able to set the characters up a little bit better, but this
Yeah.
one didn't pay them enough time and attention.
Yeah.
It rushed through the whole opening sequence. Just, it was more like flash images with Will Smith talking and you know, doing his thing over the top of it, and then it didn't slow down until it got to the action sequence. The first action sequence for me really bothered me, because it seemed, and this is unusual for Guy Ritchie, it felt staged and slowed down. It felt like the actors were waiting for the stunt guys to hit their marks
Right. Okay.
before they could jump onto the next piece of action, which really stilted and slowed it down. So I thought that they'd rushed through the beginning, which really bothered me because they didn't spend any time with the characters at all. And then when you get to the action piece, that, yeah, it's done to a musical and it's supposed to be enjoyable, but it felt that it had stilted the action when it should be ramping up. So I felt that they went fast when they should have slowed down, and they should have gone, you know, a little bit better with the action. And the whole thing kind of in the beginning just started to fall apart for
I,
me.
I no, I agree with you on that point. I think the introduction of Princess Jasmine so early within the story was a bit of a mistake, and that for about 10 minutes I was questioning whether or not she was Princess Jasmine.
Yeah, me too,
That
actually.
that wasn't made clear, because you all of a sudden you've got this woman, and you know it's Princess Jasmine because you've seen the earlier version, the original, and the same storyline and the same things are happening. But actually, it doesn't give you anything. You're not. Um, there's nothing within the narrative that's really pointing out that she's a princess at all. Nothing.
No.
And that bothered me a little bit. Um, I think Aladdin's character as well you're right. It was set up better in the original. We don't get enough of the fact that he's a street rat in this one. You know,
He's dressed better than I am. His clothes are amazing for a street rat.
Yeah, so that's that's interesting, I think. I wasn't keen on the chap who played Aladdin, Mahmood. Someone Mahmood.
Yes.
Where are we?
Oh, I put it away. Mena Massoud.
Yeah. Felt like he was quite weak casting, especially when I remember when this was being spoken about originally, and they were talking about getting Riz Ahmed to do it.
Oh yeah.
That would be fab. You know,
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot more charisma, a lot more presence on screen. I think, like you said a moment ago, because the genie is essentially the main character, it didn't matter too much that you didn't kind of get to know Aladdin that well.
True.
But
my feeling was the fact that if the genie's the main character, which we think he is, it's like you need to get to him, and it's gonna contradict what I just said. You need to get to him quicker because there's quite a lot of the film where he's absent. But I think the reason that you feel that absence is because they've rushed the beginning and they're leading up to something, and then it grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
I said, okay, so where is this going? We know that when it starts to slow down, what I was thinking is that, okay, I know the genie's coming. Okay, get past this. This is really dull for me. Just get to the genie, because if the genie's no good, this film is completely destroyed for me, because I'm not enjoying the beginning of this at all.
I thought the costumes and set were very impressive. When we get to Agrabah and we're first there, I thought I was blown away. I thought that was really
colors and the design was really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Reminded me a little bit of Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. I could see that. Just with a lot more color.
A lot more color, kind of almost like Assassin's Creed mixed with Avatar. You've got, because the Avatar colors and stuff are amazing. But I liked that, and I thought the costumes were great. I thought the just the whole visual part of the film was excellent.
I completely agree. I mean, whoever was in charge of designing all that and putting that together, absolutely fantastic job. Because what I feel occasionally is that if a film that tries to inject too much color, because they're not 100% sure what they're doing, or they're trying to use so much color, it comes off as either hyper real or incredibly fake. But this world, as colorful as it was, it felt lived in. It felt like it was an actual living, breathing community, where people went about their daily jobs. Whereas far too often, you might see something that's designed this way, but it's beginning to look a little bit like a really bad Star Trek set. You know how they try and they try and differentiate between the Star Trek crew and the culture that they've gone to visit by giving them the really colorful and odd clothes. And thankfully they managed to avoid that type of comparison. It's like it didn't feel like it wasn't real by any means. It really felt lived in.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I was disappointed by Jafar. Where was his beard?
I mean, a bit of stubble going on.
Come on, he looked like I did. He just looked scruffy. Like in the cartoon, he's got that gorgeous curly beard and stuff. This guy looked like he hadn't shaved for a while.
I felt they tried to make him more of a real character. Like the Jafar from the cartoon was your big mustache twirling villain.
But it's Disney
with a capital V. Exactly. I mean, and I think that's what was missing from Aladdin. Aladdin didn't have any charm. Jafar wasn't he wasn't a villain with a capital V. They tried to ground certain elements of the film, like they tried to give Jafar a believable backstory. Whereas I
Yeah,
think in the cartoon, it was like, I want to rule everything. Why not?
yeah,
Whereas in this, his motivation was the fact that he's such an ambitious person that he's managed to work his way from a street rat like Aladdin to the second most powerful person in Agrabah. And
yeah.
because of his ambition, that's not enough. He must be first. And whilst you can understand that ambition, it didn't help with the rest of the tone of the story. I thought it was really
It's
off the
too.
mark.
It was too deep.
Yeah.
It was too deep. You know, this isn't a film for adults. This is a film for. I mean, it's not a film for adults. It's a great film, but in the same way that any other Disney film is, they're pitched at children. Don't try and get too deep with it all. I
But
felt.
I think they tried to pitch to us when we were children that they were trying to bring in those
Mhm.
of us who used to be kids who are now parents and those kids as well. They're trying to pitch to too many people.
Yeah, I think you're right. I did love it though. Oh my god, I loved it. It's so good. Love the bit with the what's it called? The tiger head in the
Oh yeah, the Cave of Wonders.
Cave of Wonders. There you
Cave
go.
of Wonders.
Loved that. I thought that was so great.
Yeah.
Um, it had everything from the original that I wanted. Yeah, it was a real version of the original. It was so good. I really liked that.
No,
Even the voice.
oh, the voice of the Cave of Wonders.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I mean, I thought the Cave of Wonders was spot on, especially given that they didn't lean too much into animation with that one. Because obviously in the cartoon, the Cave of Wonders, the mouth is moving, the head's moving, and what have you. But no, for this, it was just a cave, and if you're not, it collapses on you if you're not
Yeah.
the right person. And that was a nice. I enjoyed the fact they didn't go too far with that, but I really wanted them to push like Genie and Aladdin and Jafar. I wanted to push those characters more and really let the actors enjoy playing about with those characters.
Yeah.
But they tried to give them too much of a real life motivation. I thought
Do you
it
think
brought it down.
do you think that with the genie?
Now I was in two minds with the Genie. It took me a while to get used to him because um I was trying to recognize the fact that Will Smith's making it his own,
Yeah.
which is really difficult, I feel, because a lot of the songs are the same. And trying to
Yeah.
bring your flavor to
Yeah.
something that is so imprinted in an audience's mind,
Yeah.
that's got to be tough.
Because think about the original. I can only imagine that Robin Williams has given the music and the lyrics, and he just went with it. You know, I can't imagine that it was written in exactly the intonation that he
No.
played it, because it's Robin Williams. The guy is an improviser. He's amazing. Was amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I miss him.
um, Will Smith, though, he did have that challenge, and I did think he made it his own. I don't think it was as good in that sense.
I agree with you entirely. He did make it his
Yeah,
with the original material that he was given.
it's a little
Uh,
bit like the Fresh Prince.
yeah,
There were times where I was like, "Oh, he's
yeah, but you wanted that. Or at least I thought so
yeah,
anyways, because Will Smith has gone quite serious in his later career, or at least
yeah,
he's tried. And it was more of that younger Will Smith that you wanted to see because the Genie as a character needed that energy
yeah,
injected into them. And I like the fact that you're right. He brought his own flavor to it. He didn't try and compete
mhm,
or do better than or the same as Robin Williams. Is like, no,
no,
this is my take on the Genie.
yeah."
The material might be largely the same in terms of the songs and what have you, but it's Will's version of that. And I appreciated that.
There was a bit where he beatboxes in one of the
Yeah.
songs, um, and it was just for me. I was almost waiting for it to happen. You know, come on, Will Smith, come on, you know, this is what we want. And he delivered, and that was good. And the dancing as well. You know, Will Smith is a great mover, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
in the musical numbers, we often saw him dancing and moving around. I thought that was very cool.
This is it. It needed that life. So I think the Genie, and I said it right at the beginning, the Genie is my favorite part. It's the only reason I kept watching the film
Right?
because
Yeah.
I was as impressive as it is, because a production like this, I mean, for starters, it had a massive budget, but it looked like all the money's there on the screen, which is
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Will Smith came on as a genie that I was like, "Yeah, I'm enjoying this now. This is good. Okay, now I got a film that I can really sit back and enjoy." And I think a lot of that was because I wasn't invested in the characters. I didn't really care about them all that much because I found them quite dull, which
Yeah.
is a shame.
What did you make of Iago and Apu?
Yeah, you see, in the cartoon, and I'm sorry to keep doing it because we shouldn't always compare it to the original,
It's hard
but
not to because
it's really tough.
it almost is scene for scene.
Yeah,
So it's
and
really hard not to make that comparison.
I completely agree. In the original, the carpet and Iago and Apu, they were hilarious.
Right,
Like
because they
they
were
were brilliant.
protagonists. They
Yeah,
were main characters.
yeah. But in this, they felt really sidelined.
Yep.
And I suppose it depends. I mean, if you're using a CGI parrot and a CGI monkey, play up to it. They
Absolutely.
don't have to be sideline characters. They're CGI. You can get them to do whatever you want. And they largely didn't do anything.
I thought Iago was boring, weak.
Yep.
Or, yeah, the film would have been the same without him. I
Yep.
felt the same with Apu. There was just nothing going
Yeah.
on there.
And the relationship between Genie and the carpet in the original is brilliant. It's like,
Yeah,
you know, they're riffing off of each other,
yeah,
which is tough because carpet can't even talk.
right.
But in this,
Nothing.
completely sidelined, nothing.
Yeah, almost insignificant.
Yeah. It
Which
was,
is a
yeah.
shame.
It's like we got lots to do. We'll leave those three characters, even
Yeah.
though they're in the original they were brilliant. And I was such a fan that I used to watch the cartoon as a kid as well, and that was also brilliant because they were main characters in that. And then in the sequel, Return of Jafar,
Yeah.
Iago is a massive part in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that there's no way you can? I mean, they can't do Return of Jafar in the same kind of vein because Iago is a nothing character.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Oh no,
maybe
I was
maybe that.
a bit disappointed.
No, I was really disappointed. Um, I felt there was a big gap there actually.
Mm.
Again, didn't take too much away from my experience because I did really enjoy it, but it could have been better in that sense. Yeah. Um, what did you make of the special effects then? The with the genie, because that's where the criticism came.
Yeah.
That's where the main criticism came.
I
So what
don't
did
know
you
if
make of
they'd done color correction, but the genie looked to me the genie looked better than what he had done on the trailer. However, that might have been because I was watching the trailer on my phone and I was watching the film on
that?
my
Right. Okay.
big TV at home.
Yeah.
I thought that it was going into the realm of Uncanny Valley. It's like, do you remember when they tried to do Princess Leia at the end of Rogue One? Of course, you're not a Star Wars fan. No worries. Well, there was some de-aging. Okay, there was some de-aging in Rogue One, and at the end they do a young Carrie Fisher,
Oh, okay.
and it's all well and good until they get to her face, because the mechanics and the facial, the muscle structure and bone structure that's difficult to do on CGI.
Okay.
So I'm told, I'm not an expert, because it moves in such a way that the human eye is still very able to go, there's something not quite right about that, even if you can't identify what it is.
Right.
And I think that the CGI was brilliantly done, but there were moments where it was like, there's something not quite right. Now, bearing in mind that this is a big blue ghost genie, so yeah, the whole thing's not right. I get that. It's like there's
Yeah.
something that's just a little off,
Yeah.
and it
No.
didn't sit well.
Absolutely. So I think that he was fine in terms of his body, and
Mm.
from the head down to his waist was pretty much fine. It was that bit below, the kind of the wispy
Mhm.
bit that comes out of the lamp. That did look a bit rubbish,
Yeah.
but you kind of, I don't know. I was very forgiving of it. I didn't
Well,
bother
this
me that
it's
much.
at the end of the day, it's a kids' film.
Right.
I think that film. Excuse me. The thing that I was a little not so forgiving of was the fact that you've got a lot of CGI characters in play. You've got Iago, you've got Apu, you've got the carpet, you've got the genie, and you've got what's Princess Jasmine's tiger's name?
Oh,
Yeah. Uh,
I can't remember.
and
But
you've got
again,
You've got
not
you see, this is it. People are
yeah.
going to be listening to this shouting us, this is the name of the tiger. Anyway, I'm going to look it up as I talk. But then you've got Princess Jasmine's tiger's name. And I thought, if you've got that many characters that are CGI,
Yeah.
and this had a budget of $183 million, it's like, with the greatest of respect, surely you could have spent a bit more time on it, a bit more
No, I
money.
agree. I agree.
Mm.
Talking about special effects, then I don't know. So this is when I was looking at it after. So after I watched the film, straight away I went to reviews. So I'd read some reviews years ago, 18 months ago when it first came out, and then I went away after the film and started reading reviews again. And one of the biggest criticisms about the film was around the whitewashing of the film.
Mm.
And when I first started reading that, I didn't get it at all. It's very easy as a middle class white man for me not to get that.
Yeah,
But
I can see that.
because one of the things I thought to myself, well, actually, the actors there are all of some sort of ethnicity that would fit in with that. But the girl who plays Princess Jasmine, Naomi Scott,
Mm.
she's British and she's I think half Indian, I think. And so there's loads of criticism over that. And then the extras who are on set as well were being asked to apply brown makeup to make themselves seem darker and stuff like that.
Ooh.
And so part of it for me, I don't know, it felt that kind of muddied the water a little bit for me.
Mm.
After watching this film, really enjoying it, I went away, read that, and sort of went, "Oh God,
It's
that doesn't sit
yeah,
right with me." That's not quite right.
and this, I mean, whitewashing has become a bit more. People are a bit more aware of it these days because it's happened. I mean, it's been happening for decades, but it was socially acceptable a long time ago.
Right.
It's not really
But we're
acceptable
talking
now. We're
time
talking
with
decades, and we're talking
uh,
before I was born, kind of time
yeah,
ago.
right, right.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the one that always springs to mind for me is Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell, which is an anime live action.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
they've got they have an American actress playing what should be an Asian character.
yeah.
Now, they write around it and they go to great lengths to explain why she looks Western. But you're right, it's like it's still happening today. And I read a lot around that particular case. I mean, a lot of people, they honestly didn't really care. It was more about the Westerners who were kicking up a fuss.
Yeah, right.
Whereas they were like, no, we're not really that fussed. I mean, a film's a film. It's like, well, fair play to you. But
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's like, is that acceptable today?
It
It's
it makes me feel uncomfortable.
a little, yeah.
Um,
And I think the biggest thing for it is that when you whitewash something, you are missing an opportunity to hire and give an opportunity to such great new talent
yeah, yeah,
that otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to make a film like this.
yeah. I agree. I agree, and that's a huge part of it, isn't it? Um,
Raja was the name of the tiger.
Raja, there we
Raja.
go.
Yeah,
Right.
Raja. I was like,
Awesome.
man.
Um, so one of the things I really loved was the opening sequence. I know you said you didn't really enjoy it that much, but this big ship and then opening up on Agrabah, the big city, and it felt like it had, for me, I really liked that. I got a bit like a sense of excitement watching it. It took me back to seeing Aladdin for the first time as a kid. Because that city was so impressive. The
Mm.
set, the design, everything about it was just so big and detailed. I liked that.
The attention to detail, yeah, is absolutely faultless. They put so much work and effort into it. I mean, that's probably where most of the money was spent, other than,
Yeah.
I don't know, Will Smith's wages. Um, but I agree. I liked the opening gambit where Will is on a boat talking to two kids,
hmm
and that was great. But it was
Yeah.
when they got into the rest of it, it was just for me it felt a little rushed. But I
No.
agree.
Yeah.
And
So,
whilst we're there, actually, what did you think of the fact that they gave Genie his own little story, a little side story?
yeah, I liked that. I thought that was really cute. It because after you watch the 1992 version, and at the end he's made free, and then he goes off and does his own thing and what have you. but actually, it was so nice to kind of see it bookended that story. I loved it. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really cute. Um,
Excuse me. There's there's a thousand eyes for you. No, I completely agree. I really enjoyed the fact that they gave Genie a bit more of a story beyond the all great and powerful who wants to be free. So
yeah,
I really enjoyed that as well. I thought it was a nice little touch, and I thought that the back and forth between Genie and Dahlia, because Dahlia, who's played by Nassim Pedrad, I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. She's never been dating and has no idea what's going on.
he was
And
great.
Genie, with his thousands of years of experience, knows exactly what to do, but can't do it anyway. And
Yeah,
I found that really, really cute. So
yeah,
I enjoyed the banter between the two of them.
yeah. No, I thought that was a great thing. There were so many things. Oh man, I could talk about this all day. I think I just in my head, I'm just thinking about the this is completely off topic from what we were just talking about, but the I don't know what you would call it, but the staff that Jafar has with the
Yep.
snake head and all that. Yeah, I loved that. Again, it's something so small and not really significant, but for me it was a major part of the story. For me, I really liked that. I thought it was done really well. It was visually really quite an interesting thing to do. I don't know. I think there were little bits like that throughout the film that were particularly.
Absolutely. And for me, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, is that there were bits in this film that were outstanding, like
Yeah,
really, really good.
yeah,
But there were also bits in this film, quite large bits, where I was like, yeah, that's all right. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Okay.
Like there was one moment where I think it was Jasmine was talking to someone, I forget which character it was, and she was talking about how, it's the the role of Sultan is to be a leader of people, and it shouldn't matter who that leader is, provided that they look after the people.
Mm,
And then she's basically talking about feminism and
yeah,
how if you are a leader, you're a leader. It doesn't matter what your gender is. And for me, I think if they had changed the story a little, and they did to an extent, which I really appreciated, where um, the story was about Jasmine fighting for her right to become a leader, and they
mm,
made that the main driving force of the film. I think that would have been a really nice way to modify it, or excuse me, to bring it into a modern audience,
yeah.
as opposed to, you have to marry a prince so that you can become princess, but he's ultimately king, which is basically what happens in the 92 version. But
No,
instead they're
you're
like,
right. That would have been a lovely change.
would
That
have
would have
been
been,
brilliant.
yeah, it would. Because and my wife Alice and I we talk about this quite a lot, but the idea, especially with Disney Plus, we've been talking about it loads recently, but the idea of the women in Disney films being so oppressed, and
Oof.
are they good role models for our daughter? And I
Mm.
I don't know.
You're
Some of the newer ones, like I go, well, actually, yeah, maybe. And we'll talk about Pocahontas actually,
mm.
about how she's quite a good role model because she sticks up for herself and all that. Have you ever heard of the Bechdel test?
I have the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Um, I am not going to try and summarize it, but I
Yeah.
know I can't remember the exact
I'm just going to look up the
criteria for the Bechdel
actual, yeah,
test.
but
My,
basically it's a series of criteria that determines whether the females in a film are, whether it's a fair representation of
mm,
women or not. So I'm just going to find it here because I do think that this is something we can look at actually. We
yes,
can ask.
my understanding, and obviously whilst you're looking it up, my understanding is that it's female characters have to interact with each other and not
Yes,
other men for a certain period of time, certain length of time, and that interaction is not allowed to be about a man of the
that's it.
film.
So
So
three
it has to be
requirements.
unrelated.
So three requirements here. The movie has to have at least two women in it who talk to each other about something other than a man.
I'm not sure that. Well, I'd have to go back and watch the conversations between Jasmine and was it Dahlia?
I don't think they do. I think they're talking about Aladdin and
Genie
they're
and
talking
Aladdin,
about
yeah.
Genie. They're not talking about anything. And so it doesn't pass in that sense, which is a shame. But then, like you said before, the film doesn't really go far enough to assert a strong feminist character
No,
in
I
Jasmine
mean
anyway.
they make her Sultan but if you're going to go a little bit more hardcore than that, the only reason that she's made Sultan is because albeit her father, another man has granted her that power.
Yeah, yeah.
She didn't get that for herself. And we could go down that rabbit hole for a long time, but I thought they could have pushed it in a different direction to
I
bring it
agree.
to a modern audience in a
Yeah,
much more positive way for women.
I agree. I agree. Anyway, so Guy Ritchie directing.
Yeah, right. Let's make this our because we're trying to keep it. God bless you, audience. We're trying to keep it to an hour. I think we may be running, but what we'll do is we'll make these our last points, and then we'll go for finishing conclusions.
Fantastic.
So
But
Guy
so
Ritchie,
I
yeah,
just want to talk about Guy Ritchie though, because you would never know this film was directed by Guy Ritchie. It is so far from anything he's ever done before. He there doesn't. I mean, he does a good job, but I don't. This could have been directed by any number of people.
do you think that might be because I don't know if it was the case, but do you think that's because Disney had a lot of control over it, like they do their
Sure.
Marvel property?
Of course, it has to be.
Yeah.
You know, Disney have a set of core values that they stick to, and you can't wave from them values. You can't, you know, any director coming in, you could be Steven Spielberg working for Disney, and you have to follow their rules. They're an empire in themselves within the film industry, and they make the rules, and you can't go against that. And so I feel like it was Guy Ritchie's name attached to it, but it wasn't. I don't know really how much creative decision he had to make, because like we said before, it's almost shot for shot the same film as the 1992 version. There is a difference. There are some other things included, but I wonder how much creative decision he actually, or creative input he had within that.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like he didn't really have all that much creative input at all. I might be wrong, but like you said, it is almost shot for shot. And I feel that the reason that the beginning was a little rushed was because they had a few extra songs to fit in and a couple of extra sequences. Aladdin doing his breakdancing thing, for instance. And there was stuff like that peppered about the film. But I think you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I think overall, Disney were like, you're going to do it this way. And if not, we'll just find a different director.
Right, and absolutely, and that is what it felt like. I didn't get any sense of that being a Guy Ritchie film at all.
No, and even with Sherlock, which we've spoken about before with Robert Downey Jr., you can tell by the way that it's set up and the way that it's
Yeah,
filmed that's a Guy Ritchie film,
for sure.
because he's got his very own unique style about him with
Yeah,
how he shoots and where he places the camera and how he slows things down and speeds things up. I didn't notice any of that in this.
no, none at all. And I think that you could have included that if this film had perhaps been a PG or a 12. You could have included some more Guy Ritchie elements to it. But fact is, it's Disney.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not going to allow you to do that sort of thing. And to be fair, it paid off. I mean, it's on 183 million budget, it made
Over a billion.
1.5 billion. And that's a remake.
That is a
basically
tremendous amount of money.
It's nuts.
That
Absolutely
really
nuts.
is bonkers, especially when the film was so panned before it came out.
Yeah.
Think about Cats, for
negative.
instance, because think about the negative or the negative reviews Cats got, for instance.
Oh my!
And that absolutely bombed.
Yeah, they had to. They tried to re-release it because they changed all the the way that it looked because it wasn't friendly enough.
But this, it was panned before it came out, but it
did really well.
It was
but it's a kids audience, and I think you got two things working for it: is that the nostalgia of the then children, now parents, and the kids themselves really worked in Disney's favor here.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that it did get quite a lot of negative buzz. So yeah, fair play to them. They know what they're doing.
So, final thoughts?
Okay, I'll go first because I think you're going to leave it on a much more positive note. Given that this film is just over 2 hours long, I felt that there was it was a rushed beginning, and it was really, really good in parts. My absolute favorite part was when Prince Ali comes into Agrabah for the first time. They got that massive theatrical song going on. I thought that was outstanding, but I also thought that's where the film peaked. And for me, it never really got any better than that. And overall, if I had never seen the original, I genuinely think I would have enjoyed it a bit more. because I was constantly comparing it, which is something I've got to be aware of when I'm looking at films, is what I bring to the film myself. So would I recommend it? Absolutely. I think for me, it was more of I personally didn't like it because I was so in love with the original, and I've got to remove myself from that situation, which I struggled to do as an audience member. But I think that if you're looking for a children's film or a family film for you all to enjoy together, I think that Will Smith was really, really good. I loved his take on the genie. I thought that there was enough to the characters to enjoy the film, but I was constantly comparing them to the original characters. And I thought that overall, the way that it was held together and the tone of the film was a really, really, really good time. So even though I personally didn't enjoy it, I would still recommend this to friends and family because I think I was bringing too much of my own stuff to it.
Right. So I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. I would highly recommend this film to anyone and everyone. I actually think that having seen the original made this more enjoyable because I was almost anticipating what was going to come next. But I totally agree with you that the highlight of the film was the Prince Ali's Welcome to Agrabah. That was fantastic. I mean, what an exceptional sequence that is. Um, and I think that you got your best performances out of Jasmine, out of Aladdin, and out of the Genie during that sequence. It's a shame that we didn't get to see more of Guy Ritchie's directing style in it. I think that could have made it a bit more fun and a bit different, made it stand apart from the original a bit more. But I don't really have anything else to say. I really enjoyed it. I think I've made that fairly clear.
Awesome.
I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, and I finished the film and was buzzing. I really loved it. I thought it was brilliant.
Awesome. No, absolutely. I mean, I didn't like it. You did like it, but we'd still recommend it.
For sure.
So yeah, fair play on that one. And I think the general audience enjoyed it as well, given by the box office
Yeah, I
results.
think you're right.
But yeah, like I said, I would recommend it. I just didn't enjoy it personally.
But if you did want to watch it, it's available on Disney Plus, which you can get a 7-day free trial of. So if you haven't seen it, there's no harm in signing up to that, and you can access that through the app. Through
Disney, if you're listening, we do accept sponsorship.
Absolutely. I just want people to see his films. I don't care. I just want people to see this film. So if you haven't seen it, sign up for free. Go get your Disney Plus subscription and watch it. If there's a billion other things on there as well, but this is a highlight for me.
Awesome. Right. So, actually, I'm just interested, you got subscription to Disney Plus, or have you gone for a free?
Yeah. No, we've subscribed. Yeah.
Yeah, they did like a 1 year 10 quid
Before
off.
they released it. Yeah, we
did that before isolation.
Yeah.
When life was simpler. Awesome. Andy, where can they find us? We've got some social medias.
Absolutely. So we're on Facebook. You can find us there. Parents on Pictures. You can find us on Twitter, same again, and on Instagram. Go and follow us. We take recommendations. If you've got something you quite fancy us chatting about, then get on there. Let us know what it is. And we'll be posting this on YouTube as well, Parents on Pictures at YouTube. So you can see our beardy faces and watch how our hair is growing out in
I so wish
I know.
wish I'd had a haircut before isolation, man.
Not been this long in a long time, but yeah, you can see us on YouTube, and yeah, keep in touch. Let us know when you've listened. We'd love to any feedback or anything. We'd love
awesome. Next episode, we are going to be looking at Netflix's The Platform, which is picked by myself. At the moment, Andy and I are going back and forth. I picked Cargo, you picked Aladdin, I picked Platform. So hopefully we'll get something a bit nicer and not quite so dour on your pick. But yeah, so next episode, we'll be recording and we'll be looking at Platform. Andy, before you say goodbye, anything you want to add?
No.
Cool. Bye-bye now.
Bye.